Nerds are not smart because of their unusual brain structure or sort of superpower. They are smart because they use effective study strategies that I will share with you today. Guys, when I asked 10 nerds about the best studying strategies, I was a little bit shocked because their tips were indeed simple that I thought that each and every student can use it in order to become smarter. But then I understand that unfortunately there is a huge gap between knowing the information and actually using this information. So guys, if you want to get the greatest benefit from this video, try to implement at least 2 techniques that I will share with you today. Okay, let's get into it. First, studying strategy in regard to note-taking. A great deal of students tries to implement the note-taking strategy by simply copying information from the book or writing each professor's word during the lectures. But the problem with that, this is a passive way of learning, and simply copying information, you will not remember this information properly. So there is a great alternative to note-taking, and this is writing the questions instead of the information that I need to learn. What I'm talking about, for example, if you have a chapter from the book that I need to learn, instead of trying to copy the most important information, and we know that the most important information is typically almost everything, write down the questions to a particular concept that you need to remember. Because while you're trying to form the question for the concept, you're going through that information a lot of times, and your brain thinks critically about these concepts so that you can easily remember these concepts.
Here you may see that I am writing the questions and then I'm writing the place where the answer is.
In regard to the answers, actually, if you have one source of your information from which you take this information, like let's say book, you can easily write down the pages where you can see the answers, or write down the number of paragraphs and give these numbers on the book. But if you have multiple sources of information, let me say YouTube videos, books, professor, audiobooks, things like that, it's better to divide your copybook into different parts. And on the first part, you need to write down the question, and on the second part, write down the answers. You know, there's in some books you can find the answers to the problems on the last page. So here we do the same thing, but actually we are writing these answers by ourselves and use it when we can't remember a particular concept. The next important tip: don't have long studying sessions. The thing is, our brain cannot maintain focus for more than 1 hour or 45 minutes, so there is no point in studying like a lot of hours in a row. Instead of having that unproductive long sessions of studying, it's better to have like 45 minutes studying and then a little break, then another study session, then a little break. I remember when I attended school, I had that lessons and breaks system, so I was easily controlled by the external clock. We had a lesson, then we had a break, another teacher came in, we had another lesson, and thanks to that system, I could easily focus on different subjects. I'm talking about real focus, like I could easily solve particular problems or remember particular concepts. So that was pretty cool. When we started to study online, a little problem appeared because we have our digital lessons down, we have our tasks that we need to complete through the online platforms. So sometimes I don't only have the breaks during my studying sessions, but also after my studying sessions, so that I can sit at my desk and study till the evening. So this is pretty bad because I understand that after 1 hour or maybe 2 hours, I can easily start to procrastinate because I cannot focus on anything. I don't see the point in studying, and that's pretty bad. So have a little breaks. And even if you have, like me, online courses, online lessons, try to create these breaks for yourself. And remember that your break shouldn't contain scrolling the Instagram or sending the answer for the email. It's far better to get out of your room at all and just take a short walk or just see what's going on behind the window. So yeah, have a rest that will be useful not only for your laziness but also for your brain. The next tip: repeating is the key. And right now, I'm not talking about spaced repetition. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. I'm talking about the repetition within this 1 hour studying period. So actually, when you have a particular chapter to learn, it's better to learn it piece by piece. I remember earlier, I tend to just read the whole chapter then I tried to reread it and read it multiple times, and then I tried to kind of remember this information and explain it to someone. Best strategy, because in such a way, yeah, I would probably be able to explain it after 5 minutes of studying, but in an hour I will forget almost everything. So it's far better, as I said, to learn it part by part. For instance, you read one short part of the article, you try to explain it to yourself, then another part of the article, then you try to explain both of that parts. That would be more effective. Like, I'm not saying that this is effective for everyone, it depends of course, but almost every nerd said to me that it's really effective to learn something new by little parts. It would be uncomfortable at the beginning, but you can think like, oh god, when I'm reading the whole article then again and again and try to explain, it sounds more effectively, but this is not truth. Try to read actively. Now let's talk about advices for your math classes. And I suppose that you know that the best way to learn formulas is by using it while solving the problems, right? You learn the theory, then you have a cluster of problems that you need to solve, and so that you can use this formula to remember it. But yeah, this is a cool strategy, but don't forget that after you kind of practiced those formula thanks to the cluster problems, it would be so effective for you to solve problems that are not clustered, so that implement interleaving practice. Actually, I created a whole video about that practice and you can check out it. I will leave the link in the description. Interleaving, this is the process when students start to mix or interleave their new knowledge in order to solve problems. So for example, let's talk about, we need to learn the formula of the area of rhombus. For the first time, when you firstly solve this formula, you need to solve some cluster problems, or maybe just one problem, where you are directly asked to solve the area of rhombus. But then, in order to actually remember this formula better, you need to solve the problems that directly don't ask you to find the area or some elements from the formula, but you will be asked to do something else. But in order to do this something else, you need to actually use this formula. For example, you need to find the perimeter of rhombus and you're given its diagonals. So you basically firstly need to use this formula and then actually find the perimeter. This is a pretty easy example, but you got the idea, right? So you not only need to remember this formula, you also need to understand that you need to use this formula. And this is the big difference between interleaved practice and cluster problems. Okay, so I hope that you got it, and that's really effective for your math classes. And the last tip that I want to share with you today, but it is really important, and that's probably one of the most important tips: manage your time. It can be so easy to get a burnout because of constant learning. And guys, I know it very well, because when I prepared for the SAT, like I was preparing like a crazy. I could spend like 8 hours of studying, and I sometimes even forgot to eat, forgot to sleep. So that was a really bad strategy, because of the constant learning, you're not learning effectively. After like week or even less time period of that studying, you're gonna get a burnout. It's gonna demotivate you, and you can easily get a burnout for weeks. I had a burnout for weeks, and that's really bad, because during those weeks you can easily forget information that you learn. So manage your time properly in order to study effectively, and you need to be exceedingly realistic about how many hours you can devote for effective studying. And remember, it's better to study like 4 hours effectively than spending like 8 hours of studying and without result, right? Okay guys, that was everything for today. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope that these studying strategies will help you to study effectively. Write in the comments down below studying strategies that you personally use that can be helpful for other viewers as well, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.